Good morning, KC.
Morning, guys. How are you?
How are you doing? Thanks for getting up early because I know it was a late night, and what an eventful night it was.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. As I think I tweeted one time, they fixed the NBA All-Star game. I'm still amazed. I thought that was incredible theater, and Commissioner Adam Silver has to be pleased with the changes they made to the format, which were brought to him by Players Association President Chris Paul. And the great thing about Silver's tenure thus far as commissioner is he hasn't been afraid to make changes. Sometimes to the point of alienating some people. And I already you're hearing, okay, it was great finish, but game should end on a non-shooting foul. Well, who said they can't put a wrinkle in next year that says can't end on a non-shooting foul, or if you reach 157 on a free throw, there's one extra possession for the other team, or what have you. So I think anybody that was there, or I can only imagine what it was like watching on TV, but anybody that was there could feel the intensity and electricity in the building. It was pretty special.
I love that the players took ownership of the game, and they felt compelled to put on a real, authentic show for everybody. It was almost as though they thought, you know what would Kobe Bryant want to see here in this fourth quarter? And they did not disappoint.
Right, and that's the nice thing about what Silver did is, Chris Paul originally brought this idea to the Elam ending to him, and the NBA kind of put its own unique twist on it by coming up with the aggregating the scores after three quarters and then adding 24 points to make that the target score. Obviously, a nod to Kobe's jersey, and then it was the NBA in partnership with the Players Association that thought of the charitable component, which I also thought added a nice twist. I mean, you had Nick Nurse and Frank Vogel trading late third quarter timeouts to try to drop a ATO to win the quarter for charity. I mean, when's the last time you saw that in a All-Star game? So it wasn't just the fourth quarter that I thought the impact was felt, but it was obviously much more pronounced in that final quarter.
Casey, I said it was like putting a camera into an NBA open gym in July, because it just seemed like it was a free kind of competitive atmosphere, and you kind of got a sense of who the players respected or valued when they needed that big basket. So I thought that when Team Giannis went to Joel Embiid consistently down the stretch, that was pretty telling to me. And then, of course, I wasn't surprised, but it just reaffirmed that LeBron James and his place in this game when he was the guy that everything ran through for his team. What about the basketball itself, the way that it went down, surprised you, if anything?
I'm not sure anything surprised me. I mean, maybe a little bit of the post play of Embiid. I mean, obviously, the game has just totally moved away from post play, and Team Giannis kept going to Embiid in the post. Maybe that was a matchup thing. I mean, Giannis was so good for the majority of that game that he couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't move in that fourth quarter. They were doubling him every time he touched it. Sometimes had three bodies in his vicinity. So, I don't know. Nothing surprised me, but I thought it was really pretty fitting that you make a good point, David, that everything went through LeBron, and he took the awesome heat check, almost half court 3-pointer for the win, which I had no problem with. But then I thought ultimately what said it all is it was his passing that really sealed it for them. And, he passed up the shot at the end and dished off to Davis, who was open near the rim when he got fouled for the foul that led to the eventual winning free throw. Because as great of a scorer as LeBron is, and he's never been looked as maybe as a dominant scorer, but obviously he's vaulted up the all-time scoring chart. His greatest attribute, his greatest skill always has been his court vision and his passing, and so I thought that was pretty fitting as well.
I thought the league did a phenomenal job of making sure everyone was aware of the rich basketball heritage that exists in the city, beyond just the Bulls and the MJ era. And watching all of that this weekend, it made me wonder, why is it that this franchise can't get the kind of free agents that, say, Brooklyn was able to get last year, considering the rich history of basketball here in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question, Zach, and obviously that's what the Bulls were pointing towards when they, secured this All-Star game. That was the plan of the rebuild. You heard it not only privately stated but publicly stated more forcefully. From last season's end onward and throughout last offseason was this is the season we're going to move towards relevancy. I can't remember if they've alluded to the Brooklyn situation publicly. I know I've heard it privately. That's what they need to create, a competitive atmosphere so that when they are in position in 2021 to have maximum free agent space, that they're in the game for the big name free agents. And that is why this season is so objectively disappointing. I mean, I think everybody kind of, when the Jimmy Butler trade was made, accepted, it was difficult, but just kind of accepted that some losing was going to follow. And the last two seasons, while challenging, kind of felt like, all right, well, this is part of the plan. And, this was a season we heard was going to be different. And, it's beyond the one-loss record. It's just at times just the fact that they don't feel relevant anymore. I mean, the one-loss record is bad enough, but just the fact that they just sometimes don't feel like they're, on the national stage or a relevant or a extremely relevant franchise anymore. That's the part that is so impactful and so difficult. And that's why, there's been widespread reporting throughout the season, including some last night, that there's almost certainly going to be changes this offseason because this season has really challenged the Bulls' overall plan. I mean, this has just been a step back by every measure.
So that brings us to your report, Casey, on NBCSportsChicago.com, that the Bulls used this weekend, and Michael Reinsdorf specifically, to kind of improve or maybe to cultivate those relationships to find a, quote, empowered presence in the Bulls front office, which I guess I'm interpreting as would join John Paxson, not necessarily replace him. And how would you interpret what that means? Is that something that has been going on for a while? And what kind of person would they be seeking? Yeah, so I want to make clear because
there was the Sun Times also reported that this weekend was used as an opportunity to kind of advance that notion that we've been hearing about for weeks. And my understanding is that this has been ongoing, and I do think it was intensified this weekend because, look, I always say, like, if beat writers are hearing it, it's been out there for a while and been going on for a while. And basically, a lot of places I went this weekend, people would be like, that I know around the league, executives, agents would be like, oh, Bulls are making changes, huh? I'm hearing that they're asking around on people, things like that. So it was pretty pronounced this weekend, but I do think the process has been ongoing. They've been seeking input for a while. As for how the structure will ultimately play out or the candidate that is likely going to be added, who it's going to be, I can't speak to that. I don't even think that they've finalized that. I think they have a general idea that they want to add somebody to run basketball operations and to kind of be the voice and face of the franchise along with John still in the picture, but just taking kind of a step back, and maybe in the Kenny Williams mode. John has done this before. I mean, people forget that Gar was the face of the franchise for several years and for some very good years. And John was completely in the background, but when they chose to undertake the full rebuild and trade Jimmy Butler, John felt incumbent upon himself to kind of be the face of the franchise and articulate the vision. It was largely his vision, and everyone I think can agree that John is very good at being the face of the franchise. He's a good public speaker. He's got obviously some cachet with his playing background and also I think his early executiveship days. So I can't claim to know all the answers. I just know that everywhere I went this weekend, people are like, "Oh yeah, Bulls are making changes, huh?" And it's pretty obvious that they're, you just connect the dots. I mean, with what I was saying before and how underwhelming this season has been, it certainly sounds like they're going to move pretty quickly this offseason.
Now, does this mean that John Paxson is spearheading these changes, or is it Michael Reinsdorf who's looking to tweak the way they do things?
again, I can't speak to specifically how the format is going to play out or how it's been going on behind the scenes. I know for a fact Michael Reinsdorf has been seeking input on, just from people that he trusts. He's been seeking input, like who obviously he has his own ideas, but he's been seeking input from other people, like who would be good in this role. And that role is, as I put it in the report, is an empowered presence in the front office. Again, where that autonomy begins, where it ends, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure they know the answer to that. Maybe they do, but I certainly don't. What I can say is, and I wrote this in the story, the first test of that autonomy is going to be Jim Boylan, okay? Mm-hmm. Because Jim just signed a 2-year extension and is still pretty valued by the Reinsdorfs. And I know John has publicly went to bat for him as well. So obviously most, let's call this person GM. Let's give this person a title. Obviously most GMs like to have their own coach. So right there, you're going to, if this expected first hire goes down, which all reporting from multiple outlets has pointed to, that's going to be the first test of this person's autonomy and where that power begins and where it ends. Because, if he's brought in and he's reporting to John, then there might be some pushback on any Boylan changes. If he comes in and he has the autonomy to do whatever he wants with basketball operations, my guess is there'll be a coach search this offseason. But all that, I think, is to be determined.
Good reporting, KC. Thank you for getting up, and great job all weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Gee, cold cereal.
Granola.
Listen, does that sound like a satisfying breakfast to you? I think we'd rather hear sausage on the griddle, freshly toasted English muffin, a satisfying bite into a McDonald's breakfast sandwich. So let's wake up breakfast, Chicagoland. Now enjoy a sausage McMuffin, sausage biscuit, or hash browns. Any two for $2. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Single item at regular price.